Hello and welcome to IT Chronicles. My name is Casanova. We're here in Las Vegas at the Gartner Data Center Conference, and I'm here with my co-host, Charlie Betz.
Carlos.
And Robert Edwards from Cardinal Innovations Healthcare.
Carlos.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I guess you're doing a lot of work around the hyperconvergence area. I know you're here two separate reasons, I guess, why you're here to speak with folks. Talk to us a little bit about what that means to you. I mean, we've spoken to a lot of different vendors and a lot of different individuals around hyperconvergence and a few variants on that. So, how's that playing out for you guys?
So at Cardinal, it's sort of our first step towards a software-defined data center, right? We're moving away from the three-tier, sort of classical infrastructure with your storage, your compute, and networking into this hyper-converged space. We chose Nutanix. It's been a real successful platform for us. It gives us a couple points of value: ease of administration, lower total cost of ownership. One of the big benefits that we had with Nutanix is the sort of Lego block theory, right? So we bought what we needed up front, and then now as we consume more, we can purchase on a sort of on-demand basis, which gets us into the conversation about moving to an OpEx model versus the traditional CapEx, because we don't have to buy all that infrastructure up front. Those refresh cycles with the three-tier architecture, they can be a bear. And you spend a lot of time, kind of analyzing your capacity and trying to project your capacity for the next 3 to 5 years, because the one thing you don't want to do is get in that refresh cycle and then have to go back to the well. So I'm just here talking about sort of the success story that we've had with Nutanix.
Okay, that's great. So what were some of the drivers that led you, you mentioned that, actually the capital refresh cycle and feeling that kind of pain. Were there other drivers that, led you to start thinking about this? And did you think about other alternatives?
Yes, so we looked at a couple different products. We looked at EMC's offering. This was probably about a year and a half ago, as EMC was moving away from this vSpec Blue into the VX Rail and VX Rack product offering. We looked at SimpliVity, and we looked at HyperFlex from Cisco. We decided that Nutanix had the overall best vision moving forward, and so we pulled the trigger with Nutanix. So as far as drivers go, it was part of the refresh cycle conversation, and so we had gotten into that, and we were starting to look at what was that going to cost. And so total cost of ownership was a big driver, and then really ease of administration and ease of automation and where we're going in the future. And again, after evaluating it and talking to peers, we landed on Nutanix as our solution.
So obviously, with the ACA and stuff, I would think, being in the healthcare space, there's probably some scalability issues that you guys had to account for and accommodate. Saying if we go one way, and I think that was kind of where you were going with. There's a big investment if you don't go with something that's this flexible. Right.
So in the healthcare space, especially in the United States, it is political. And so
to say the least.
What I like to tell people is the only constant is change, right? And so Nutanix, it offers us that ability to not provision with overcapacity up front. And then gives us that flexibility to be dynamic. For example, we're rolling out a new company-wide enterprise application this year, and we can piecemeal the infrastructure for that. It's not something that we planned for, and it's not something we had to try to guess when we entered into the refresh cycle.
3 years ago with that.
Right.
Right.
So how large is Cardinal Innovations?
So Cardinal Innovations is the largest specialty health plan in the country. We fund nearly $1 billion in Medicaid and Medicare services in the behavioral healthcare space, and we cover roughly 875,000 members in North Carolina. And we deal in the specialty populations, so mental health.
Got it. So for our viewers who may not be familiar with some of the models here, so is Nutanix, is that still a capital purchase though, or do you actually just acquire it as a service from Nutanix and they retain the asset?
Right. So Nutanix, for us, was a capital purchase. It was an investment, and what I make reference to in sort of the OpEx piece of that is it kind of helps us transition as a company to purchase what we need when we need it. Right. We're still purchasing it and owning it because, especially when you have workloads that aren't dynamic, right? I think Nutanix will actually talk about this a lot. It makes sense sometimes to own, right, versus rent, especially if you know you're going to need something. So it was a CapEx purchase for us, but again, it gives us flexibility.
Right, there's a lot of consistency in that architecture, and you can continue to scale it out horizontally, and you can buy as you go, buy what you need, rather than engineering, as you say, the 3 silos.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and with, and to your point, because things are changing in the U.S. so drastically, almost year to year, I can't imagine trying to go to the business partners and say, hey, we need X. It was really a guesswork of what might happen or might not happen. So how does that work from, enabling the business perspective? I mean, obviously, sounds like the scalability, you're more agile, not to use the agile term, but you're more agile to enable business growth and.
Yeah, so we are, it does allow us to respond quickly and dynamically to business needs. I will say one of the giant benefits has been the breaking down of the SME silos in the organization, so we can deliver better business value, right? So I no longer have dedicated SMEs for operational pieces, and that's one of the great things about hyperconvergence. And Nutanix, from my experience, is just a very simple platform to manage, and so it's really helped refocus those employees to drive business value versus just keeping the lights on.
Right. Are you able to change your staffing model then to one of having operations people working more directly on small cross-functional teams? I mean, that's the big Agile DevOps conversation.
Right. So
having them in these deep dive silos like storage engineering.
Right. That's the plan. Right.
Okay.
So we're in the middle of that. That's a cultural development.
Sure.
Right. And the change management of people is always the hardest part.
Yes.
Yeah,
we're in the middle of that now, but that's the game plan.
I just spent 20 years being a server engineer. What do you mean I'm going to go on this product team?
Right.
Well, Robert, thank you for joining us. I mean, we always enjoy, one of the things that we talk a lot about is we don't do technology for technology's sake. There's nothing there to do it. So, having folks like yourself that are really enabling the business and that business value is really the key that I think more technology people need to understand,
right?
Why we're really doing it. So, thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thank
Wish
you
the best, and look forward to hearing how things continue to grow. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.